Translator's note. This is not a free adaptation of Césaire's work. Neither, however, is it a completely literal translation. The poem is important because of its thinking content. The thinking is both political and poetic. Politically, it is a poem of revolutionary passion and irony. Poetically, its images have a physical and often sexual resonance. It is always in respect to this double content that we have sought and worked upon an English version. In close reading, the original poem is sometimes obscure, and necessarily this obscurity remains in the translation. But in French, this obscurity is only a detail in relation to the lucid passion of the whole. We hope that this balance, or the equivalent of it, has been preserved for the English language reader. We wish to thank the following whom we consulted whilst working on this translation: Dorothy Baker, Jean-Paul Klebert, Peter Levi, Adrian Mitchell, Simone Moore, Henri Stearlin, and Alan Tanner. Anna Bostock, John Berger, October 1968. At the end of the small hours. "Get away," I said, "you bastard of a cop. Swine, get away. I hate the livery of order and the fishhooks of hope. Get away, foul juju, bedbug of a monk." Then I turned to dream for him in his lost one's paradises, more calm than the face of a woman telling lies. Rocked there on the breath of inexhaustible thought, I fed the wind, set monsters free, and heard a river, turtle doves, and savannah clover rise on a far side of disaster. A river in my depths as deep as the brazen 20th story is high. A river to protect me against the corruptions of dust that are paced day and night by a damn venereal sun. At the end of the small hours, delicately sprouting handles for market. The West Indies hungry, hail-marked with smallpox, blown to bits by alcohol. The West Indies shipwrecked in the mud of this bay, wickedly shipwrecked in the dust of this town. At the end of the small hours, the last deceiving sorry scab on the wound the waters, the martyrs who refused to bear witness, the fading flowers of blood scattered on the futile wind like the screeches of chattering parrots, an old life's ingratiating smile, lips apart in deserted anguish, an old wretchedness decomposing in silence beneath the sun, an old silence broken by tepid pustules, the dreadful zero of our reason for living. At the end of the small hours, the strand of dreams and the senseless awakening on this frail stratum of earth already humiliated by the greatness of its future, when the volcanoes will erupt and naked waters sweep away the stains ripened by the sun, till nothing is left but a tepid, molten, simmering pride over by sea birds. At the end of the small hours, this town flat, displayed, brought down by its common sense, inert, breathless under its geometric burden of crosses, forever starting again, sullen to its fate, dumb, thwarted in every degree, incapable of growing as the sapid earth would have it grow, set upon, gnawed, reduced, cheating its own fauna and flora. At the end of the small hours, this town flat displayed. And in this town a clamoring crowd, a stranger to its own cry is the town, inert, is a stranger to its own movement and meaning, a crowd without concern, disowning its own true cry, the cry you like to hear because only that cry belongs to it, because that cry you know lives deep in some lair of darkness and pride in this disowning town, in this crowd deaf to its own cry of hunger and misery, revolt and hatred, in this crowd so strangely garrulous and dumb, in this disowning town, this strange crowd which does not gather, does not mingle, this crowd that can so easily disengage itself, make off, slip away, this crowd which doesn't know how to crowd, this crowd so perfectly alone beneath the sun, this crowd like a woman whose lyrical walk you have noticed, but who suddenly calls upon a hypothetical rain and commands it not to fall, or makes the sign of the cross without visible reason, or assumes the sudden grave animality of a peasant woman urinating on her feet, stiff legs apart. In this disowning town under the sun, this desolate crowd which rejects everything expressive, affirmative, or free in the daylight of the earth, which is its own earth, which rejects Josephine, Empress of the French, dreaming high above the niggers, rejects the liberator bound in his liberation of white stone, rejects the conquistador, rejects this contempt, this freedom, this daring. At the end of the small hours, this disowning town in its wake of leprosies, consumption, famines, its wake of fears crouching in the ravines, hoisted in the trees, dug out of the soil, rudderless in the sky, piled together. This disowning town and its fumaroles of anguish. At the end of the small hours, the forgotten heights which have forgotten how to jump. At the end of the small hours, the malarial blood of the heights, wearing the shoes of worry and docility, reversing the sun of its own feverish pulse. At the end of the small hours, the banked fire of the heights, like a sob gag before it breaks out in blood. The fire awaiting a spark that hides and denies itself. At the end of the small hours, the heights squatting in front of hunger pains, wary of thunderbolts and potholes, slowly vomiting their exhaustion of men. The heights alone with their pool of blood, their bandages of shade, their gutters of fear, their great hands of wind. At the end of the small hours, the famished heights, and no one knows better than this dismal bastard of a hill, this morn, why the suicide abetted by his epiglottis killed himself by rolling back his tongue to swallow it. Why a woman looks as if she is floating the Capot River, her luminously dark body obedient to her navel's command, and she is only a patch of ringing water. Despite the energetic way they both have of drumming on his cropped skull, neither the teacher in his classroom nor the priest at catechism can get a single word from this half-asleep nigger child because his famished voice has been sucked down into the marsh of hunger. A word, a single word. And you can forget about Queen Blanche of Castile. A word, a single word. Just look at the little savage. He doesn't know a single one of God's 10 commandments. For his voice has lost his mind in the marshes of hunger, and there is nothing to be got out of the little good-for-nothing, but hunger, which can no longer climb the tackle of his voice a-heavy. Flabby hunger, a hunger buried in the deepest heart of the hunger of the famished morn. At the end of the small hours, this nondescript beach for wrecks, the exacerbated odor of corruption, the monstrous sodomies of the host and the slaughterer, the unscalable ship's prow of prejudice and stupidity, the prostitutions, hypocrisies, lusts, betrayals, lies, swindles, concussions, the breathlessness of petty cowardice, the wheeze of gushing enthusiasm, the greeds, hysterias, perversions, the harlequinades of misery, cripplings, itches, rashes, the lukewarm hammocks of degeneration. This is a pageant of comic scrofulous swellings, of festers begun by the strangest microbes, of poisons without known antidote, of pus from old wounds, of unforeseen fermentations in rotting bodies. At the end of the small hours, the great still night, the stars more dead than a burst balafong, the monstrous bulb of the night, germinated from all our meanness and renunciations. And our gestures, idiotic and mad, try and bring back the golden shower of privileged moments, the umbilical cord redrawn in its frail splendor, the bread and wine of complicity, the bread, the wine, the blood of a true wedding. My far distant happiness, which makes me aware of present misery. A lumpy road plunging into a hollow where it scatters a handful of huts, a tireless road charging at full speed towards a hill at whose top it is brutally drowned in a stagnant pool of dwarfish houses, a road madly climbing, recklessly descending, and the wooden frame comically hoiked up on tiny cement legs, which I call our home. Its skull of galvanized iron buckling in the sun like a drying hide, the dining room, the rough, floor with its glistening beads of nails, the rafters of pine and shadow, which run across the ceiling, the ghostly, chairs of straw, the gray light of the lamp, varnished and quick with cockroaches, the lamp buzzing till it hurts. At the end of the small hours, this most essential country, restored to my greed, which wants no foggy tenderness, but is a twisted sensual concentration of the morn's fat nipple with the accidental palm tree, as it hardened germ, the jerking spunk of the streams, the great hysterical tongue of the sea, from Trinite to Grand Riviere. Then time passed quickly, very quickly. August, when the mango trees sport moons. September, midwife of cyclones. October, burning sugarcane. November, which purrs and stills. And now Christmas beginning. Its coming was first felt in the prickling of desires, a thirst for new tenderness, the budding of vague dreams. Then suddenly it took wing in the violent silk rustle of its great wings of joy, and over the burrow it plunged down and burst open to life inside the huts like an overripe pomegranate. Christmas was not like other holidays. It did not want to run the streets, dance in the public squares, straddle wooden horses, take advantage of the crush to pinch women, throw fireworks in the face of tamarisks. Christmas had agoraphobia. What it wanted was a day of continual bustle and preparation, and kitchen work, a day of cleaning and anxiety, in case there's not enough, in case we're unshort, in case they think it dull. Then in the evening a small church, not intimidating, allowing itself to be filled benevolently with laughter and whispers, confidences, declarations of love, rumors, and the keen, Throaty discords of the choir leader, and hearty men and tardy girls in homes with their entrails stuffed with succulents. No counting pennies today. In the town now nothing but a bouquet of songs. It is good to be inside, to eat well and drink with warmth. Blood sausage 2 fingers thin like a twisty stalk. Or blood sausage broad and thick, the mild sort tasting a wild thyme, the hot kind blazing with spice, scalding coffee sweet aniseed cordial milk punch, rums of liquid sun, and good things to eat which brand your mucous membranes or distill in the delight or weave fragrances across them when somebody laughs, when another sings, and the refrain spread like coconut palms as far as you can see. Alleluia, Kyrie eleison, Lysen Christ eleison, Lysen. Not only the mouths are singing, hands too, feet, buttocks, genitals, the whole fellow creature flowing in sound, voice, and rhythm. When the joy reaches the highest point of its ascent, it bursts like a cloud. The songs do not stop, but anxious and heavy they roll now along valleys of fear and tunnels of anguish, through the fires of hell. Everyone tries to tweak the tail of the nearest devil until imperceptibly fear is abolished in the fine sand of dreams, and you live truly in a dream, drinking and shouting and singing in a dream, and also you doze in a dream with eyelids like rose petals. The daylight comes velvety like the sapodilla berry. The smell of liquid manure from the coconut palm, the turkeys picking off their red pimples in the sun, the obsession of the bells, and the rain, the bells, the rain. Ringing, ringing, ringing. At the end of the small hours, this town flat displayed. It crawls on its hands without the slightest wish ever to stand up and pierce the sky with its protest. The backs of the houses are afraid of the fire-truffled sky. Their foundations are afraid of the drowning mud. Scraps of houses that have settled to stand between shocks and undermining. And yet this town advances. Every day it grazes further beyond the tide of its tiled corridors, shame-faced blinds, sticky courtyards, dripping paintwork, and petty suppressed scandals, petty shames kept. Quiet and petty immense hatreds knead the narrow streets into lumps and hollows where the gutter pulls a face among the excrement. At the end of the small hours, life flat on its face, miscarried dreams and nowhere to put them, the river of life listless in its hopeless bed, not rising nor falling, unsure of its flow, lamentably empty, the heavy impartial shadow of boredom creeping over the equality of all things, the air stagnant, unbroken by the brightness of a single bird. At the end of the small hours, another house in a very narrow street smelling very bad, a tiny house which within its entrails of rotten which shelters rats by the dozen, and the gale of my 6 brothers and sisters, a cruel little house whose implacability panics us at the end of every month, and my strange father nibbled by a single misery whose name I've never known, my father whom an unpredictable witchcraft soothes into sad tenderness or exalts into fierce flames of anger, and my mother whose feet, daily and nightly, pedal for our never-tiring hunger. I am even woken by those never-tiring feet pedaling by night, and the singer whose teeth rasp into the soft flesh of night, the singer which my mother pedals for our hunger night and day. At the end of the small hours, my father, my mother, and over them a house which is a shack splitting open, with blisters like a peach tree tormented by blight, and the roof worn thin, mended with bits of paraffin cans. This roof pisses swamps of rust onto the gray, sordid, stinking mess of straw, and when the wind blows, these ill-matched properties make a strange noise, like the sputter of frying, then like a burning log plunged into water with the smoke from the twigs twisting away. And the bed of planks on its legs of kerosene drums, a bed with elephantiasis, my grandmother's bed with its goat skin, and its dry banana leaves, and its rags, a bed with nostalgia as a mattress, and above it a bowl full of oil, a candle lamp with a dancing flame, and on the bowl, in golden letters, the word merci. A disgrace, Pale Street. A disgusting appendage like the private parts of this town, whose sea of gray tiled roofs extends to left and to right all along Colonial Road, whereas here there are only roofs of straw, stained brown by sea spray, worn thin by the wind. Everyone despises Pale Street. It's there that the young people of the town are led astray. It's there that the sea especially dumps its refuse, its dead cats and its dogs. For the street ends on the beach, and the beach is not enough to satisfy the foaming rage of the sea. A misery, this beach of rotting garbage, the furtive rumps of creatures relieving themselves in the sand. Black, dismal, black sand such as you never saw. The sea scum slides over it, yelping, and the sea hits hard at this beach like a boxer. Or rather, the sea is a great dog licking and biting the shins of the beach, and in the end the biting dog will surely devour this beach and Pale Street along with it. At the end of the small hours, the rising wind of the past, a broken faith, of an undefined duty slipping away. And those other small hours, the early morning of Europe, to leave, as there are hyena men and panther men. So I shall be a Jew man, a Kaffir man, a Hindu from Calcutta man, a man from Harlem who hasn't got the vote. Famine man, curse man, torture man. You may seize him at any moment, beat him, kill him. Yes, perfectly well kill him, accounting to no one, having to offer an excuse to no one. A Jew man, a pogrom man, a whelp beggar. But can you kill remorse with its beautiful face like that of an English lady stupefied at finding a Hottentot skull in her soup tureen? I want to rediscover the secret of great speech and of great burning. I want to say storm. I want to say river. I want to say tornado. I want to say leaf. I want to say tree. I want to be soaked by every rainfall, moistened by every dew. As frenetic blood rolls on a slow current of the eye, I want to roll words like maddened horses, like new children, like clotted milk, like curfew, like traces of temple, like precious stones buried deep enough to daunt all miners. The man who couldn't understand me couldn't understand the roaring of a tiger. Rise, phantoms, chemical blue from a forest of hunted beasts, of twisted machines, of jujube trees, of rotten flesh, of a basket of oysters, of eyes, of a lacework of lashes cut from the lovely sisal of a human skin. I will have words huge enough to contain you all, and you too, stretched earth. Drunken earth, earth great sex raised, and the sun earth, great delirium of God earth risen wild from the sea's locker, with a bunch of sea crops in your mouth earth, whose surfing face I must compare to mad and virgin forests. That I would wish to wear his countenance before the undeciphering eyes of men. One mouthful of your milk spurt will let me discover always at the distance a mirage in earth, 1,000 times more native, golden with a sun no prism has sampled. A fraternal earth where all is freed, my earth. To leave, my heart was throbbing with an insistent desire to give. To leave, I would arrive sleek and young in that country, my country, and I would say to that country whose clay is part of my flesh, I have wandered far, and I am coming back to the lonely ugliness of your wounds. I would come to that country, my country, and I would say to it, kiss me without fear, and if I do not know what to say, it is still for you that I speak. And I would say to it, my mouth shall be the mouth of misfortunes which have no mouth, my voice the freedom of those freedoms which break down in the prison cell of despair. And, coming, I would say to myself, beware my body, my soul. Beware above all of crossing your arms and assuming the sterile attitude of the spectator, because life is not a spectacle, because a sea of sorrows is not a proscenium, because a man who cries out is not a dancing bear. Now I have come. Once more this limping life before me. No, not this life. This death without sense or piety, this death where there is no majesty, this death which limps from pettiness to pettiness, little greeds heaped on top of the conquistador, little flunkies heaped on top of the great savage, little souls shoveled on top of the three-souled Caribbean, absurd beneath the spatter of my ripped conscience, tragically pointless, lit by just one phosphorescent. Not to look at myself alone with the apocalypse of monsters who suddenly strut across the stage of the small hours only to capsize and fall silent, an election of hot ashes, of downfall and collapse. Again an objection. Only one. Let it be only one. I have no right to assess life by this black band span, to reduce myself to this little ellipsoidal nothing trembling 4 fingers above the line. I, a man, have no right to deny creation like this. Let me be contained between